Hi friends, it's something like the 10th, is it the 10th of February 2022? 11th, February 11th, 2022. This is one of those so angry I need to vent videos, which are risky, with your channel and whatever. So some of you may know my family is in temporary crisis. I've raised 3 wonderful children, all doing well, all well educated, all productive, loving, perceptive, and funny citizens. It was never intended for single parents to raise children on their own. It really wasn't. My daughter was born to what later transpired to be a child molester, likely paedophile, who is on the run and hidden safely in Malaysia. I was not the only person who got conned by him and my family when my daughter first disclosed. Her own stepsisters, his 2 girls from previous marriage, believed for more than a decade the family narrative that Angie, the crazy mum, made up the story and imposed it upon the 11-year-old disclosing. So Gabriella put her right, one of her sisters right, on a recent visit. I recently had a nervous breakdown, a kind of DID meltdown, dissociative identity disorder. It's not DID, Matt Taylor, and it's not like Sybil. It's not as crazy as it sounds. Most human beings have the ability to dissociate. Most human beings have experienced driving from A to B and not remembering how they got there, or seeing a horror movie that was a bridge too far, or seeing a car crash on the side of the road and filing the memory away because it was unpleasant. So dissociative identity disorder is just a multiplication of that. And in many children post-World War II, it was induced to do experiments to explore memory wiping and to explore spies that couldn't disclose under torture, to explore things like, how to deal with veterans coming back from the front line with shell shock, they used to call it, PTSD it's called now, which was bad advertising for joining the military. So all sorts of experiments were carried out, Mengele style, post the Nazi era of experiments. They didn't end. Hundreds of the Nazi scientists and doctors and lunatics and psychiatrists were secretly extracted and relocated to places like Argentina, but also Europe, under the guise of the military. So that was how my mother and siblings got involved, got volunteered against our will without consent, was starting for me in a German military hospital, which was a catchment hospital for both Army, British Army, American Army, and British Air Force and civilians in a 3-country area, RAF Vegberg, near Mönchengladbach. Randalen is well known to the Americans as having a base there as well. So I won't digress too much on that. I believe all 3 children, surviving children, I had 2 miscarriages as well. One was a twin of Josh. And miraculously, I convinced the hospital in Ipswich I was not delusional. I knew I'd had a miscarriage, but I also knew there was a baby in my womb. And after them telling me I was just distraught and all the rest of it, they finally did a scan, and yes, lo and behold, Josh survived the miscarriage of his twin, and he's 27 now. My mother had a similar hospital experience, giving birth to my Irish twin Fiona, 11 months older, and then they took the baby away. In half an hour, they brought a different baby back, and she said, "This is not my baby. You've given me back the wrong baby." And they said, "No, you're overwrought. You're just overwrought. No, the hair colour's changed because we've dried her hair, and there you are, pet. This really is your daughter." I later discovered in research there was a baby swapping project to examine the mother-child bond. How much was nature and how much was nurture? I was about to prove that with both my sister and my mother agreeing to take a DNA test to find out, my sister at the age of 58, to find out if my dad really, my dad, nobody disputed that my dad was the dad. Fiona looked like my cousins and, many in my father's side of the family. She didn't look like my mother's side of the family, and the rejection started from the half an hour after birth when my mother said, "You've given me back the wrong baby." So it's the kind of background. I've tried to break the cycle, and I believe I am, but it's not perfect. This is generational. Of the 3 surviving children I have, 36, 35, 86, Gabriella was born. This is 2022. Yeah, 36, she must be 36. 27, Josh. 24, Jamie. At the moment, I'm only in communication with Josh. And Gabriella, my daughter, is coming after my work big time. My sisters, particularly Kathy, used to joke and say, "It's hilarious that you and Gabby fight because she's just a mini you. She just, her art and textiles degree reflects all your interior design, and she's followed you into broadcasting and blogging and vlogging and so on and so forth. She's just a mini you, Angie." And I used to feel a little bit proud. And then when Gabriella overtook me, with almost 10 million hits now on her blog and Insta famous for showing people how to manage frizzy hair, I just completely continued to acknowledge her and say, "I'm so proud of you. It's a joy to a parent to see their children do better than they did." I have a core following of about 20,000 between my blog and my YouTube and my Facebook and my Twitter, which she got smashed down in my recent breakdown, which only happens about every 10 years. Thank God. Hugely healed and resolved from DID and childhood trauma, non-stop from in utero. Hugely resolved, except, and this is on my medical notes, which psychiatric services refused to release to a police investigation. And when I challenged them, they said, "Oh, well, you were in Lanzarote. We really wanted to go through it with you and see how many retractions you'd have liked to have made." None. I signed a waiver. I was willing to be public for the sake of my own healing and catharsis, and because you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And because a byproduct of my sharing my truth and my life and the generational abuse, I've had hundreds upon hundreds of survivors contact me and say, "You stopped me from having an abortion, you stopped me from committing suicide, you gave my marriage a new lease of life, you gave me hope." And that's a byproduct. I wasn't doing it to be a goody two-shoes. I was doing it because I like to say I'm allergic to secrecy. So in my latest meltdown, with Gabriella's career, climbing to the clouds, good for her, making a good living, very Insta famous, nearly 10 million hits, probably then by now already there. Now she's ashamed of me because I disclose, because I every decade or so have a nervous breakdown or a DID meltdown, because my catharsis is to tell the truth, which includes 5 generations that I'm aware of, from my Irish granddad down to my great niece, and including some of my children and some of my siblings and many of my family, because I choose to document that. The first thing my daughter did in the middle of my meltdown was send the police to my door. when I was literally on death's door. For about 3 days, I was on death's door. And I opened the bedroom window because I'm too scared to go to the door. There's 2 guards. Oh, your daughter sent us to do a welfare check. My daughter lives 25 minutes away. If she really cared about my welfare, she would have come herself. So I filmed them. I live streamed them Brian Harvey style on Facebook. Then my son turned up, the youngest, whom Gabriella's tried ever so hard to be a mother to. She's not his mother, I am. She's his half-sister. That's what you are, Gabriella. Jamie is not your son. You are not his mother. I am. So darling Gabriella sent Jamie around, sent him into the office, instructed him how to crash my Facebook and Twitter. My Twitter was completely lost. My Facebook, my beautiful assistant managed to recover after a few days. That wasn't enough for my daughter. She'd also visited when she found out that Jamie and his girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. She came around and suggested I might go and rent a room somewhere and let them have my house. Rent my house for peanuts. And she and I laughed about it. I said, this is like Rainbow Farm, Dad and Mum and Phil and Anne-Marie all over again. And she laughed and agreed. But she absolutely said, could you not move out, Mum, so, you know, Jamie and Katie can live here? And, yeah, I would have been, I love my children so much, probably too much. I would have done it. The first thing Jamie and Katie had said to me, do you mind moving into the cabin, Mum, if we make a bar ensuite for you? And I was like, okay then, you know, this is my house, debt-free, quite lovely. 20 years of blood, sweat and tears, alone, divorced, raising my children, dealing with mental health issues, dealing with generational abuse, dealing with getting robbed by family and discredited by family ongoingly, dealing with people trying to take my children, which they never succeeded in doing. But sadly, Gabriella particularly was so influenced by my loving family, very respectable, upper middle class, equestrian family, that she walked right into the lion's den when she was 19, straight into an abusive, violent relationship for 7 years, until she ran back to my home 7 years later at 4 a.m. and begged me to help her. Admitted after 7 years she'd made a terrible mistake. She was afraid for her life. Would I please help her escape? Which I did. So she called the guards. She instructed Jamie how to trash my work platforms. And her latest little gift to Mama is to have 3 videos removed from my backup channel, which is all I have now on YouTube, and get me a copyright strike from my darling daughter. How sweet is that? So I will be appealing the copyright strikes. I will be giving you till Tuesday, darling daughter, to actually remove them. But if you want online war, I'm your mama. I spoiled you out of shame for taking a while to believe you against generations of gaslighting and lies. You know, by the way, ask your stepsisters in America why they also didn't believe you. But I spoiled you. And sweetheart, much as I adore you, proud as I am of you, don't go to war with your mother. No, not a good idea. So that's it. You've got till Tuesday to remove the strike, or I'll appeal them. And if I lose my channel at your hands, shame on you. You want to remove my modest little work platform because now you're a superstar for telling people how to do their hair. You're ashamed of your mum. But it's not my shame. It's not my shame. God forgive you. Angie, angelascashes.org. I've got a BitChute account. And if my daughter gets rid of my YouTube channel, which I don't believe she'll be able to, but if she does, I'll make another. And my blog is always, my Facebook, Angela Trees Power Disney, the one that she instructed Jamie how to disable, but we got it back. Angela Trees Power Disney. My BitChute, somebody said the BitChute link's not working. Just look me up on BitChute, Angie Power Disney or Angela Power Disney. It's my real name, married and divorced, and there's nobody else with that name. Please pray, guys, and including for my children. I gave my life for them. I like a Jewish mama. I gave my life for my children. I changed all my life's plans for my children. Mistakes and all, I gave my life. And I'm not accepting this acting out as their response to that. God bless.